Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at my official pick'ems for the Blast Austin Major Playoffs. Now, if you haven't seen already, I have been posting previews for all of the quarterfinals matches that we know for sure are going to take place. By this point in time, I have already released a preview for Pain versus Furia, as well as Spirit versus Mousesports. I will be releasing the other previews after I drop this video for the remaining quarterfinals matchups we have taking place between Vitality and Na'Vi, as well as Mongols and FaZe. So please be on the lookout for those videos and go check out the old ones if you haven't, because in this one I'm not really going to be discussing the playoff matches in really heavy detail, just because A, we don't even know for sure what all the matches are going to be, and so I don't want to sit there and do previews for a semifinals match I don't even know it's going to happen. And then two, I've already done quarterfinals previews for every matchup in pretty good detail, so if you want to hear my reasoning behind why I feel a certain way about certain matchups and teams, that is the best place for you to go take a look. And it also helps support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, if you'd like to go ahead and subscribe, would appreciate that. Leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, get engaged in the conversation, and yeah, that'll be awesome. But before we get into the playoff picks, I figured I'd go over my Stage 3 pick'ems, and as you can see, we had a massive hard fail on this one yet again, so we are now only really 1 for 3 on actually getting correct pick'em predictions for this situation. So at this point, I don't even know why you care about my pick'ems, because I'm doing freaking horrible trying to make any predictions. Although our last great hero has fallen, Ash. He was the last hope we had left of anyone that I knew of, at least in the scene, whether it be a content creator, coach, player, whatever the case may be, of having a shot at Diamond. He also has now lost his shot at Diamond, so we're all taking L's out here, to be honest with you. I think at this point you have to be pretty much completely unhinged or just incredibly lucky, just blindly throwing darts at picks to be able to have a chance at a Diamond at this point. But if you're out there and you still have a chance to get a Diamond, I mean, power to you. Again, I think you're unhinged or lucky, but hey, it is what it is. Maybe I'm just being salty. I don't know. But anyway, I knew that it was going to be crazy with BO1s to be able to get all of your 0-3 and 3-0 picks correct. And I mean, the Vitality one just really freaking stings, because I just wanted them to keep propelling forward, making history. I mean, they had won the 30 series in a row entering into this tournament. Then for that series to be snapped by a BO1 against Legacy on Inferno is depressing. It really is. But I think the big thing about it was the fashion in which it happened, it being such a one-sided victory, and the fact that it was on Inferno, Vitality's best map. I mean, that just makes it sting even more. And look, in an ideal world, in a BO3, I don't think there's a fat chance in hell that Legacy beats Vitality, but Legacy have been on this magical run that ended in this stage, unfortunately for them, and they did get the win over Vitality. I mean, yeah, some teams have gotten some map wins over Vitality before. This isn't even the first time that Vitality's lost Inferno. They've lost it one other time. But yeah, just this crazy stuff. And then Mouse, look, I just thought they were the next best team after Vitality in this tournament. I thought it was going to be between them and Spirit, you know, after Falcons got eliminated. And yeah, they wound up actually having a struggle. They took a long journey to make it to the playoffs after losing the opening 2 BO1s. At least Vitality immediately bounced back here against Amiga. But yeah, I had these picks correct as far as making playoffs go. I just had them in the wrong spot. And then, you know, I did get these, or 4 rather, with Spirit. I just missed because I took a gamble on Liquid, and I was hoping that Aurora would, you know, figure it out, because they had shown that they could play at a reasonably high level. I think they were still ranked within the top 8 in the world rankings kind of coming into this stage, and I was hoping that they might be able to prevail, and they did win their opening game against FaZe, so I was like, all right, like, looks like Aurora might be able to actually do it. Then they lost to, you know, Furia, who's been on fire, and then they wound up getting clobbered by G2, and then they ultimately had to play against Mousesports, which is tough, because this could have been a playoff match, so to see it have to take place in a situation where elimination was on the line just to make playoffs was incredibly tough. So that's that. And then I wound up getting Namiga correct. I had a feeling that they were going to go 0-3, and they ultimately did. With LinVision, they were able to get the win over Liquid in their opening game, but then they immediately fell after that, so I was pretty close. They went 1-3. They just happened to get one BO1 win over Liquid, who I had gambled on, thinking that, hey, they had more time with Shuhei. Maybe they're in a good place now, but they clearly weren't, because they got knocked out. And so these are the playoff matches we are left with. Again, by this point in time, I've already released a video about Fury and Pain and Spirit and Mouse. So these are the first 2 games that will take place on the schedule. So these videos are already out. So if you want some in-detail analysis about Fury versus Pain and Spirit versus Mouse, go ahead and check those out. And then I will be releasing some detailed quarterfinal previews for FaZe versus Mongols and Navi versus Vitality soon after this video has come out. So be on the lookout for that on the YouTube channel. But to go ahead and go through these really quick, I am going to go ahead and take Furia over Pain. I did explain this in the video. Again, go and look at my reasoning behind this. But really the biggest aspects of this were both of these teams haven't really been together that long with their full five. I mean, Pain was dealing with stand-in situations when they got DGT. They had to play without Big Zero one tournament even. So they've really been kind of just lacking stability for a while now. Yes, Snow's been on the team for quite some time at this point, and even Davideus has kind of settled in a little bit. But even those two players' individual form has been very hit or miss. And then Furia have just been on fire. I mean, they just looked really good. I mean, they looked really good in Astana. Dallas, not quite as bright, but still okay. And then they look fantastic, obviously, going 3-0 in Stage 3. And so I actually think that they have more well-distributed talent than Pain does. I think that, you know, it just seems like Furia had that fire about them, and I just have a feeling that they're going to win this one. I think this is probably one of the tougher ones to pick, honestly, out of all of the quarterfinal matchups. I really do think that this is a bit of a coin toss just because Pain has exceeded expectations, and then Furia has also, again, just been playing way better than I thought they would when we heard the roster news. Again, a little bit of that was already shown in Astana, and it's continued to show here in Austin. So it really could go either way, honestly. Like, I do think the NQZ DGT combo on Pain is actually a pretty ferocious one, but I do think that Maladoi's been outperforming NQZ on average. He's more aggressive, and it just seems like nothing phases him, despite the fact that he's come from obscurity and he's handling all these high-pressure moments and doing so with stride. So it's been kind of crazy. So if I go Maladoi versus NQZ, I'm probably taking Maladoi in that. And then K-Serrano and Yuri have just been more consistent performers in their rifling roles in comparison to, you know, some of the guys on Pain like Snow, like Davideus. DGT would be the only exception. I think he's been playing pretty damn well. But again, I think Yuri has been kind of keeping up with him as they do have somewhat similar roles now on the team. And then yeah, Yakindar's also just been leveling up, actually, and getting better and better and better. Meanwhile, Davideus did play really well for Pain in the matches that really mattered to propel them in the playoffs, but he's been kind of hit or miss since he joined the team, and I'm just not really sure what version of him I'm going to get. And then again, I think Snow has just not really been it for me, and I do think that Fury is, you know, neither team has like this crazy established map pool either. So I do think it's really kind of up in the air, but I did ultimately decide to go with Furia on that one. Again, go check out my playoff preview video to get a more detailed look at both of these teams and how I think they stack up against each other. Now, for FaZe versus Mongols, if I'm going by resume and just what they've done throughout the course of this year, you probably have to take Mongols because they do come into this tournament as the fifth best team in the world. I thought they had very clearly shown that whenever in Dallas they took care of Aurora and they played Vitality super close. And just in general throughout this year, they have been very consistently placing, you know, in the positions that will put them in kind of a top 5 category, especially when you consider Aurora has had their issues. Navi has fallen off throughout the course of the year. They haven't really been at the same level that they were at the, you know, end of last year and beginning of this year. It just seems like all signs point to Mongols being in a really good place. And in Stage 3, when you watch them play, yeah, they lost their opening BO1 against Furia, but then they bounced back really effectively in their next 2 BO1s. And then when they had to play the BO3 against FaZe, they ultimately wound up losing this one in at least close fashion on the first map. But then they didn't really have any trouble at all putting G2 away on the opening map there. Obviously, this game went a million overtimes, but they still did get the job done at the end of the day against a team that, while it has its issues, it still has some decent firepower on it. But with all of that said, I also just can't ignore the run that FaZe has had at this major. After losing their opening BO1 to Aurora in a very one-sided fashion, they went on to beat Mousesports. Then they beat Legacy, who has been having this crazy run, and then they went and they beat Mongols 2-0 to get where they're at. And yeah, Simple has been in incredible form on FaZe in this stand-in situation. I thought he was a little bit hit or miss. You know, his first couple of outings with FaZe, you know, Dallas, you know, even kind of the earlier stage that they played in this major, he had some issues here and there, but he's always shown up in big moments, and he just tore it up in Stage 3 overall. Looked fantastic. You know, Frozen is looking himself exactly what you would want him to be. Rain at times is having good games, like he seems to be able to dig down deep and be able to do at these majors even when he struggles at other points in the year. And then, you know, Elise is playing fine for the most part. I would say, and I know what his potential is. And then you have a situation where Kerrigan just somehow finds magic. I mean, it happened at both majors last year. Even when FaZe looked kind of down and out, they still somehow showed up for the big majors, and they're doing it again at this major. It's actually been pretty incredible to watch, if I'm 100% honest. And so I think logically, you almost have to pick Mongols because they just have the better overall track record for the year. And look, they have some super skilled players as well. We know Senzu can be one of the best aggressive riflers in the game. We know that Blitz is the best fragging IGL in the game and can bring a really good level to the team. We know that 910, pretty solid opper. I think Simple can outmatch him in some ways just when it comes to raw firepower, but 910's been kind of embedded in the meta. I feel like sometimes Simple looks a little bit shaky in his movement and just how he moves around the map, whereas 910 looks a little bit more confident and in stride. But I've also seen some of the Mongols guys make some mistakes in some key moments in certain games, and that's why that they had a little bit more of a labored path to playoffs than they probably could have had. And look, I think the other big factor for me is that Mongols players drop off in playoffs. It is what it is. We've seen it happen time and time again where Senzu won't be his same self in playoffs once he gets there compared to when he was in the group stage or something along those lines. The only exception to that was when they played some high-pressure games in Dallas against Aurora and Vitality, which I don't think the Vitality game obviously wasn't a playoff match, but you know, they did actually show up in some of those games, and they've shown up pretty well at a major, but they haven't shown it up on the stage yet, and this is the biggest stage of all. And so if you're struggling in playoff stage matches at other Tier 1 events, at a major where the stakes are even higher, you know, that's where I really start to worry about Mongols. Again, everything logically tells me that Mongols should be the team to win this, and they very well could. If they actually show up and they play the same Counter-Strike that I've seen them play at various other tournaments this year, particularly in group stage moments, if Senzu shows up and plays at the level I know he's capable of, Blitz does as well, and all the rest of the roster lives up to their billings, then yeah, they should be able to win. They should. But FaZe, they just got that bullshit going, as some of the famous lines would say, and Harry obviously kind of made a line about it as well, one of the casts this tournament. They just seem to be up to their bullshit again, man. It's like that same FaZe magic we saw in Shanghai. You know, the fact that Simple is playing so damn well, the fact that they do have so much firepower, they all seem to be clicking right now. I'm just going to go ahead and send FaZe through. I mean, I don't know. Then this one, look, again, I'm going to release a preview video for Na'Vi versus Vitality, so I'm not going to talk about this too heavily right now. But I'll just go ahead and say it. I think Vitality are the best team in the world. They haven't really done anything to shake me of that belief. The best of one loss to Legacy doesn't rattle me at all. Na'Vi has had their struggles. Even at this event, yes, they made playoffs, but there have definitely still been games where some of their players have not looked in great form. Like, you know, they have had some big moments from some players to get them the wins that they have gotten so far this major. But look, you could have put anyone here, and I'm picking Vitality to win no matter what, right? Then, again, I did a full preview video on Spirit versus Mousesports, so go check that out. I think these two teams are very close, right? I think that they're both neck and neck fighting for number 2 in the world right now. Falcons is obviously in that mix as well, but they flopped this major, so it is what it is. But I do think that these are still certainly 2 top 4 teams in the world, and they very well could be number 2 and number 3, with Falcons also in that mix, right? They have played each other 2 times this year, and Mousesports won both of those games, but they were incredibly close. Each time it went all 3 maps. Each time there was at least one map involved that went the full distance or went into overtime. You know, the Nuke and Ancient games in particular have been very close. Spirits beat them one-sided fashion on Dust 2 a couple of those times. And I think that Mousesports had the more widely distributed talent as far as, like, every player on that team is quite skilled and can pop off. Whereas when I look at Spirit, they're obviously a bit more top-heavy. Donk, probably the best player in the world. Then Shiro being one of the best oppers in the world, right? But then after that, you always wonder to yourself, will Magic and Zontic show up? If both of them show up, this team can beat anybody in the world. If just one of them shows up, they can make a deep run, right? But it's just like, are they going to? Because I just have a little bit more faith on an in-and-out basis on their counterparts on the other side. Because, look, I think when you go Xerxin versus Donk, obviously Donk wins that. Donk, again, best player on the server in this match. Going to be. No doubt about it, right? When you go Torzi versus Shiro, I think it's pretty close, actually. Like, Shiro has the better numbers, so you're going to give him the nod. But I think there's been times where Torzi has had incredible impact being the more aggressive of the two. But then Shiro kind of turned a new leaf lately, and he started playing a little bit more aggressively. And he's been doing very well, keeping up the same numbers and expanding his game a little bit as far as what he's willing to try to go for in games. And so you tip the favor a little bit in Shiro at that point, but I do think Torzi has potential to match him head-to-head. I think the issue is that he just hasn't looked hot so far in Austin, if we're being 100% honest. And then as you continue to go down, look, I think the Spinks-Jimmy combo is more powerful than the Magic Zontics combo. And Spinks in particular has looked pretty good this entire tournament, but we have had some issues from Jimmy at times here and there. I think he's generally been pretty stable. And I think I'm always going to take Braun over Chopper as far as firepower goes, but I mean, obviously, Braun has been a hit or miss since he's become the IGL of the team, as one would expect. Everyone's individual level of play is going to drop off when they take that slot. I'm going to pick Spirit to go ahead and take this. I think this is the other very difficult match to pick in the quarterfinals. I think next to Fury and Payne, which is a little bit of a coin toss in my opinion. I think this is like 60-40, maybe even 55-45 in favor of Spirit. And I'm only saying this because all their games have been close. It could have gone either way. And Spirit is looking better for him so far in Austin. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, with this, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about these matchups because they may not even happen. But I do think in a FaZe versus Furia game, I just trust FaZe a little bit more with the experience on their players and just what they've been showing me so far this tournament. I think Vitality versus Spirit, I think Vitality wins it. They've shown that they can beat Spirit in the past. They've shown they can beat everyone in the past. Again, they've had just one BO1 loss against Legacy. It's the only thing that has been in their way since Blast Bounty because they've won everything since then. And they're going to win this one too. They're going to make history. They are going to have the first era of CS2. They will now have won 7 titles in a row. One of them will be this major, and they will have their first era. The first era of CS2 will be Vitality's. It started at the beginning of this year. It will have at least lasted through this major in June, and who knows how long it will last past that because it just seems like nothing's really slowing down the squad. And so that's going to do it. That's my pick'ems. Again, if you want to check out some more detailed preview videos about each match, these will be on the channel. 2 of them are already up. 2 of them will be up soon. And yeah, that's going to do it. Catch you next time.